Welcome to the Circuit of Success Podcast.
The Circuit of Success Podcast.
With your host, Brett
Gilliland. Brett Gilliland, Visionary Wealth Advisory.
The Circuit of Success Podcast. Let's start the show.
Welcome to the Circuit of Success. I'm your host, Brett Gilliland, and today I have the privilege to interview Eli Drinkwitz, head coach at University of Missouri football. Coach, how we doing?
Man, I'm doing great. It's Masters week. Got my Masters gear on. It's 70 and sunny outside, so I don't know that it could be any better right now in Columbia, Missouri.
No. That's maybe we could be in Augusta, Georgia, maybe come Sunday afternoon. That may be the only thing that would be nice. But, hey, that's all right. We'll take it.
Maybe one of these days, maybe we'll win enough games we can get invited out there.
That's right. Any predictions? Who you think is going to win? Are you going to go out there and say who it could be?
No. I have. I was going to say Tiger Woods, but that was an April Fool's joke that he was going to play. So, I'm a big Phil Mickelson fan. I've always enjoyed watching Phil play.
Yep.
I don't think you can bet against Scheffler. Not that I would, but so who knows? It's just a special week. It's fun to watch all the different guys compete. So.
Pretty cool. I was there in 2007, and Zach Johnson won it that year, and it was just a special place. Man, they even put the sandwiches in a bag that's the same color as the grass, so you don't see it blow away on TV and all that stuff. It's incredible. Yeah,
I've had the fortunate to go before, went on a Wednesday, watch the par 3 contest. The food's phenomenal. It's like Disney. It's like Disney World for a sports fan or adults.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so organized. It's so detailed. There's no detail unleft, as far as like the color of the bags, the color of the cups. They pipe bird music into the wooded area. So it's just an amazing place and an amazing time. And it's the thing that I was surprised by is the angulation. There is a lot more hills to the course than what the TV broadcast you can really tell. Yeah. And so that to me was amazing. And the first thing I did was, some people sit and watch one hole and see every golfer. I went and immediately walked all 18 holes just because I wanted to see the course. And man, it was phenomenal. It's really tight. It's tucked all in there together. It's again, you don't feel like that when you're watching on TV too, but it's really a cool spot.
Special place. Well, I always start with the one big question, and it's what's helped make you the man you are today?
Oh, man. So it's going to be one of these types of podcasts, huh?
We're not here to just talk NIL and all that kind of stuff. We're here to talk about Coach and what's made you the man you are today.
Wow. I mean, that's such an all-encompassing question just because there's so many different things that are in people and situations that have poured into my life to help me, be where I am right now. And whether we're talking about the experiences growing up, obviously my faith, the foundation of the faith that my parents instilled in me from a young age that has gotten me through difficult times or challenging times or adversity. I think you could also look at the characteristics or the work ethic that my parents instilled in me while I was growing up that, would be a foundational trait. But then you also think about, the different things, the people that surround you right now, my wife and my children and the unconditional love that they shower on me, in the good times and the bad times. So I think a lot of that has really pushed me to who I am. I would say the one characteristic or trait that I think has defined the success or whatever success we've had has been, and there's a lot of different ways to describe it, but I think the best way to describe it that Gus Malzahn gave me was a getter-doner. And it didn't matter what the task was. Didn't matter if it was to beat him into the office to get coffee or to make sure that the coffee was ready. Didn't matter if it was, hey, you're going to go get lunch. It didn't matter if you were going to, hey, you're drawing up the blitzes for third downs. It didn't matter if it was, I'm going to hire you to be the special teams coordinator and you've never even had special teams experience. He believed that no matter what the job was, I was going to find a way to get it done and be successful doing it. And I think that's a trait that has helped me I think now more than ever, with the unpredictability of college athletics and NIL and transfer portal, I took over a program, and within the first 4 months, we had COVID. Then we had NIL. Then we had unlimited transfer portal, and now we have this whole new thing. And I think the only thing that's been a constant for our success is this get her done mentality. Like, no matter what it is, no matter what the obstacles are, no matter what the situation is, you got to find a way to get it done.
I love that. Let's set the stage. And before I actually go there, I should have said this to begin with. Howard Richards introduced the two of us, and that's probably the biggest reason I'm here, because I'm sure you get asked by 1,000 guys with podcasts to do a podcast. But so I appreciate Howard Richards reaching out and helping to get this done. But talk about the sign behind you, man. It says the Mizzou, the goal, chase two dreams. Yeah. Talk about the importance of that.
Yeah. So, there's really three things that we want every single player to come into and do, and that's chase two dreams. The first one is God's given every one of our guys a unique ability and talent to play the game of football. If you're good enough to play in the SEC, you've got, you're the top 1% of 1% to play the game of football. And so we want to maximize that ability. We don't want any of these guys to sell themselves short and not think that football is not an avenue that they could potentially have life-changing success. And so we want them to fully chase that dream. And that's with athletic performance, that's with elite schemes, that's with unbelievable coaching. We want to put all those things on display so that they can chase that dream to the fullest. And whether that's playing in the NFL, the UFL, play as long as they are possibly able to play. But while they are chasing that dream, the most powerful thing that they're going to get from this university is that degree, because no matter how good you are at football, it's going to end at some point. And football is unforgiving. You can do everything right, but it ends at some point. And it's usually not from our choosing. And so we want to make sure that they chase this second dream of having a purpose outside of the game of football and being a positive contributor to society, which is finding their passion and purpose in life. And so we have a whole avenue within our athletic or within our football program of player development, and that is introducing them to things that they might become passionate about, and that not necessarily their area of field of study, which we hope it is, but it might be outside of their field of study. It might be in giving back to the community. It might be finding a mentor. And so we want them to chase two dreams. And ultimately, it's a life with football and a life outside of the game. The second one's develop an elite edge, and that's more character and competitive development, energy, details, grit, and emotional consistency in how they approach the game of football, but also how they approach their everyday life. We feel like it will give them an elite edge over the competition, and they'll be in the top 1% if they can figure out those things.
So can you say those again? EDGE.
Yeah. Energy, details, grit, and emotional consistency. We believe positive, contagious energy is the key to any room that you walk into, and it's something that you can control. Details drive excellence. You have to understand the details with which you're trying to do anything, whether it's lift weights, be in a classroom, be on a football team. You got to understand the details. Grit, that is that stubborn refusal to quit. You are always going to face adversity in life, and whether that's on the football field, in the classroom, at your job, it's those tough days that really define who you are. And if you have this stubborn refusal to quit, that you won't give in, you just keep showing up, then you'll outlast the competition. And then the last one is emotional consistency. You can't be a drama queen. You can't be highs and lows. You can't be an energy vampire. You got to be consistent in who you are and just show up every day. And so we believe those characteristics give you, you become elite, and you'll have an edge over the competition. And then the last one's play for championships. We're never going to settle for second. I'm never going to say that this is the ceiling of the program. I firmly believe and came here to play for and elevate this place to a championship contender. And we're working on that every single day and believe that we can achieve that.
Yeah, love it. Love it. So I reached out to a couple guys last night that are huge Mizzou fans and huge Mizzou football fans especially. And Keith Padgett's one of those guys. And his question was, I thought it's a great question. How do you feel, or what did you feel was the greatest attribute that you had that allowed you to go from 7th grade football coach to coaching at the SEC level at Mizzou by the time you're 40 years old?
Oof. Well, I think, one, the mind's a man playing the ways the Lord directs their steps. I don't think that was holistically up to me. I think that was part of a bigger plan that I just had the faith and belief that God could do something with my life and trusted it. I do think in any of those types of jumps, there's got to be some willingness to step out in faith and bet on yourself. And so that really came in 2010 when Gus Malzahn offered me an opportunity to come be a quality control assistant, making $14,000 a year, no benefits. At the time, we just had our first daughter, who was 2 months old. My wife and I were both teachers. She was going to try to teach at Auburn Elementary and make $40,000 a year, hopefully, and I was going to make $14,000 a year. We were going to sell our house and move into an apartment. And so you have to have a belief in yourself and a belief in a bigger plan in order to make that kind of jump, and we did that. So
and
I would say that
very supportive wife.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately,
she's like, "You want to do what?"
I really didn't. I mean, I wanted to do it, but I didn't know as the head of the household if that was the smartest thing, right? Because you could be potentially putting 2 other lives in jeopardy. If it was just me, it was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But when she gave me the green light to do it and said, yeah, we got to do this, otherwise we'll always look back and regret it. She is the most responsible for us at least taking that leap of faith.
That's great. That's incredible. And that Keith's second question was, and I thought this was interesting too. So you have 4 girls. We could do this whole podcast on the difference of your house and my house. I have 4 boys. Yeah. You have 4 girls. So that's going to be a little different. One of my boys is about a half a mile from you right now. He's over at South Hall. Well, actually,
that's awesome.
Hopefully he's getting ready to walk out of South Hall and head to class right now, But anyway, so 4 boys, 4 girls. How do you find balance, if there is anything, during the season where you're still spending time with your wife, you're still spending time with these girls? How's that going?
Yeah, I'm not sure there's anything about elite level success that has balance. I think it's all about
I agree.
Being present when the opportunities present themselves. So I'm a big reader, or try to always, try to grow by reading. So, one of the things I just read, the 5 Types of Wealth, and in that book, it talks about, being present at opportunities and having hinge points in your life. I want to be the guy that no matter what my job is, I'm always going to find time to take my kids to school. And so what are the days that I can take my kids to school during the season? Well, that's Friday mornings. I can take my kids to school. During the off season, I take them to school on Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. And so everything else in my life can go crazy. I can put this on pause for 10 minutes because I had a situation have to come up. But if you call me or my director of communication says, hey, I need you to do something, and it's a time when I'm taking my kids to school, that ain't happening. And so I think those are the things that matter to me. Is like, what are the things that I can't negotiate on? And so for me, Thursday nights, they wanted me to do my radio show on Thursday nights. No, I'm not doing that. That's the night that when things are over, I'm going to go hang out with my family. And that doesn't mean it's going to be my call. My daughter's got volleyball. I go to JV volleyball games on Thursday nights. My daughter's got dance. If she's got dance on Thursday night, I'm going to take her to dance. On Friday mornings, I'm going to take them to school. On Sunday mornings, win or lose, I'm going to have coffee with my wife. That's really how it works for me during the season. And I think the person that taught me that was Gene Chizik. Gene used to give us Mondays from 5 to 6:30 to go have dinner with our families, and then come back, and we would work till 1 or 2 in the morning. But that hour and a half, go be with your family. And so it kind of taught me that you have to prioritize. Today it's a beautiful day. But my daughter's got a JV soccer game in St. Louis. She's probably not going to get off the bench, but I don't have anything that I can't maneuver this afternoon. I can make phone calls on that hour and a half drive. So at 3:00 today, I'm leaving, and I'm going to drive down there, and I'm going to sit in the stands, and whether she plays or not, I don't care.
That's right.
She's going to know that I would make that sacrifice to be there, because the line in the book that got me is the only people that know that you work late or care that you work late are your kids. Because in 20 years and 15 years, ain't none of that going to matter. But your kids are always going to remember that you weren't there for them when they needed you because you were working late. So that really challenged me to make sure they understand when I can make sacrifices for them, I'm going to.
What's funny, you're talking about this book. So I saw that exact post from the author, Sahil Bloom, right, on Instagram. That hit me like a ton of bricks too. And I've always tried to prioritize. I'm not working late. I'm not working weekends. I'm in a role like different than you, right? That I can choose to do that. But that one still hit me like a ton of bricks. It actually made me go buy the book, and it's my next book I'm starting to read. So it's funny you're saying all this.
Yeah, it's good. We'll circle back when you get done with it. I'm not going to say it. I don't want to ruin it for you.
That's right. So now Will Padgett, Keith's son, he had a great question as well. I get all these questions out for these Mizzou Tiger football fans. How do you make sure all the people involved in the organization are performing at a championship level?
Wow.
And this comes from, let me interrupt you. So Will wants to be a college volleyball coach one day. So that's what his question was.
I think the biggest thing that I grew in from being a coordinator to being a head coach, I think everybody thinks that being in charge means like you get to set the schedules and you get to do all the stuff. I'm going to set the direction of the program. Really, the number one thing if you're in charge is you understand that you're responsible for holding everybody accountable to the goals. So my job is to make sure that not only are these 3 goals set up, but that every single day everybody in this organization is pursuing these goals. And when we're falling below that level, then it's my job to hold them accountable. I think to say that as a head coach, you're going to be responsible. I've got over 160 people working in this building constantly. To say that I'm going to be responsible for making sure that all 160 are doing that, no. What I have to be responsible for is I've got to set the vision. I've got to set the core values. I've got to then develop my staff, and then I've got to develop the leaders in this organization. You need about 15% of your organization to be leaders, and when you have leadership, which to me, leadership is not leadership is neutral. It can be positive or negative. You've got to push it in that direction, which is going to establish whether or not you have an elite culture or not. You got to grow the leaders in your group in order to understand what are the core values and are they pushing everybody in those core values. I knew the change in our program was occurring when I had people in the locker room echoing the message from the team room to the locker room. And then the first 2 years, I didn't necessarily have that. I didn't have the trust and the buy-in. But now that we've gotten that, now I knew that the organization was going in the right place. So go back to your question. How do I make sure that everybody in the organization is being accountable? Well, you establish the vision, you establish the core values, you teach the core values to your staff, you teach the core values to your leadership group, and then you constantly reinforce those. For example, last year, the first 4 days of fall camp, we take the entire team. We stay in South Hall where your son is. And I had 2 players sneak out. And we had curfew. They snuck out. And we caught them. And so now I can either let that ruin my day, I can freak out about it, or I can take that as a moment to teach my core values and our core values to our team and use it as a lesson. So one of them was a starter, one of them was a backup. It was the 3rd day of practice. And so I called the team up. I told them what happened. Hey guys, we had 2 guys that snuck out. Rule number 1, or rule number 3, the team comes first. So these guys put themselves ahead of the team. So we're going to suspend them from the competition that we have at the end of practice, which core value number 1 is always compete. Core value number 2 is build trust and respect. So now these 2 members of the team have destroyed trust and respect. They didn't put the team first, and now they're going to hurt you in the competition. Oh, and by the way, the winner and loser of this the winner of the competition no longer has to stay in the dorms the rest of the time, and the loser's got to stay an extra night. And so we went out there. It worked out perfectly. The 2 guys who did it were defensive players. The defense got beat. They wouldn't have got beat if those guys would have played because that they had to be roles had to be filled by somebody else. And so it actually created more buy-in with the team because it was able to demonstrate like, hey, this is what happens when you choose yourself over the team. This is what happens to the defensive side of the ball because they were complaining to each other during the thing. And I think it was really a net positive for us. It built trust instead of destroyed trust because everybody knew at that point that I was committed to the core values to the point where it showed up in everything that we're trying to do.
It's incredible. What's funny because my next question was literally, when you deal with a setback, what's your process to move through it? And you just kind of answered that, right? But sure, there's more there. So when you hear that question, what comes to mind for you?
Yeah, I think to me, when you deal with setbacks, you go right back to the vision and the core values of your organization. That's what you have them for. They're really more, core values are really more guiding principles. So when things get tough, it's all about competition. When things are successful, it's always about competition. For us, always compete. Compete is not to strive against. The root word actually means to strive together. And so we're always competing as a brotherhood, striving together to be the best version of ourselves. We're always looking to find ways to do it better than it's ever been done before. We're competing against ourselves to be the best version of ourselves. So when we get our butts whipped at A&M and don't look like the best version of ourselves, we go back to that. All right. How do we become the best version of ourselves? How do we compete? Let's show up to practice today and let's have a very competitive practice to get our competitive juices flowing because we didn't do that. How do we go back and build trust and respect? How do we, core value number 4 is enjoy the journey. Let's not get caught up in the outcome. Let's get caught up in the process. Let's find joy in the struggle of what we're doing. And so to me, when we face adversity, you look back to the guiding principles and you lean into those a little bit more.
Yeah. And I love hearing you keep going back to these values because, I'm a CEO and a co-founder of a good-sized wealth management company. And we talk about that. It's mission, vision, and values aligned, right? If we're mission aligned, vision aligned, and values aligned, and you talk about your trust and respect, I'm laughing as my business partner, Tim, always talks about the trust and respect, right? Once that's broken, it's done. So talk to the leaders out there listening to this. How much for you, because you're the CEO of a program, right? You're a head coach, obviously, but the CEO of a program. How much time and energy are you spending on your core values and making sure those are known to the entire community, right? The fans and to your team?
Yeah. Well, for us, it's really within the building. I share the core values when asked, and share the core values on social media. The casual fan probably doesn't know. The casual fan probably does know the goals because I'm pretty unrelenting in stating those consistently. But and especially with turnover, with the transfer portal, we are constantly sharing the goals and the core values of our program. And then, we actually, Coach Russell spends 4 weeks talking about an edge with our team in breaking down energy, details, grit, and emotional consistency. The month of April is, man, you're getting me into a whole different deal, but it's the law of the harvest and the parable of the sower. That's exactly what the month of April is. We want to reap what we sow, but in order to reap what you sow, you have to have good soil. And so we want to be great soil. The month of April is all about the coaching staff sowing good seeds, but it's about these players being willing and opening to growth. And so we've got leadership class this week. This month, we got personal growth class. We got a fatherhood class. We've got walkthroughs. We got individual. This entire month is about, hey, man, we want to get a return on our investment in August. But in order to do that, man, you have got to sow that seed and you've got to work that ground this entire month. So, man, I'm passionate.
Awesome, man. That fires me up. I can talk about that all day.
Yeah, February for us is all about detailing these are the values that we believe. During spring practice, this is, coaches are talking about offensive, defensive schemes. I'm talking about this is the Mizzou mindset that we believe in, focusing on this play philosophy, focusing on advantage us mindset, focusing on just us, unity over self. We don't need anybody else. We just need the guys in this room. We got to put our unity over our self-interest so that we can achieve our goals. So I'm unrelenting in it. I'm constantly singing it. I'm constantly preaching it. And then I constantly challenge our staff. If you want our guys to really buy in and believe, then our staff has to exhibit the core values that we preach. And if we, as a staff, can do that, then our players will buy into it.
So Craig Vossi, another big Mizzou fan, says, you've built something special at Mizzou. How do you sell the vision and build loyalty in a time when it's easier for athletes just to pick up and leave if they want? That's not a Mizzou thing. That's anywhere. So how do you build that?
Yeah, I think, boy, that's such a hard question, because I think the question in and of itself is good. I think the problem is we've put all this decision on the players to leave, like, oh, they're turning their backs on a place. I don't necessarily believe that's the truth anymore. I think there's a lot more that goes into the decision, and it's not as simple as a loyalty test for the players. So I want to preface it with that. Like, there's a lot more behind the scenes that goes on with these players deciding to transfer or leave than just, oh, I should be blindly loyal to the University of Missouri or any other school. But one of the things I firmly believe in, that if you get the right fit, focused, intangibles, talented, and tough, and those guys truly believe that there's a relationship built on trust and respect, and they believe and they trust that there's a competency and a character behind the coaching staff, that they believe, hey, I trust the character of the head coach and my position coach. I trust the competency that they can help me improve. And I know that I have a plan for my life and a vision for my future, and I can accomplish that, whether that's through football or through the university. Then they're going to be more inclined to stay. But there is a business side to it too. Sure. And so if I can win the personal side and I can come close in the business side, then we'll have an avenue for success. Yeah. So I think both of those things are a combination. But I do believe that as a staff, we have to help these guys really achieve these three things. And when we say it and actually do it, I think that's a combination that gives you an opportunity. You know, the best example I have is Armand Mimbu and Luther Burden. And, well, I shouldn't say that. Shoot, I got Chris Abrams-Drain, Ennis Rakestraw, Darius Robinson, J.C. Carlisle. All these guys were with Javon Foster. All these guys were with me for multiple years and had multiple opportunities to leave, but stayed and invested in the process and are reaping a reward. But you look at Armand Mimbu and Luther Burden, who came when this was just a vision and not a known reality, and now they're going to be first-round draft picks. It helps me when I go sit in the living room and say, hey, if you have questions about what I'm saying we're going to do, just call Lou, call Armand, call D-Rob, call Ennis, call KAD, and they'll vouch for who I am as a person and the methods for which we're going to try to teach and preach. That's been a successful way.
Yeah. And my son, Max, who's, again, the freshman at Mizzou, we talked about last night on the phone, is, how your recruitment process works. Because, again, there was the money side of this, right? Our budget may not be as big as somebody else's budget, but what's your process like when you're going and you're sitting in that family room and you got to get this kid?
Yeah. I think recruiting is kind of a threefold thing. It's selling a vision of either what you've done in the past or what you're going to do in the future. It's selling a unique on-campus experience, right? And then it's obviously selling the values of the program. When I go into a home, it's all about, this is where we see you, and this is how we see you fitting into our vision. We want you to be uniquely you, but we want you to join us. And we never want you to sacrifice your individuality or lose your individuality, but we want you to conform to the identity of our team. And so then we just talk about, hey, this is who you are. This is how we see you fitting in. This is our vision for your future here. And that's on the football field, and that's in the classroom, and that's in our community. And then, I talk to the parents about it, because really the player has no concept, for the most part, outside of the game of football, right? Because in their mind, and I understand that, they're betting on themselves no different than I bet on myself when I went to Auburn. If you would have told me, hey, you're going to jump to Auburn, but you're not going to make it, you need to plan to, have a backup plan, I would have said, no, I'm all in on this vision. And so I understand that. But their parents understand that, hey, it may not work out for football. And so I try to use that unique ability to sell both and have a vision for their life outside of the game of football.
That's great. What's the mindset you think that changed your trajectory the most for you to get where you've gotten?
So I vividly recall, I just got done being the special teams coordinator for Gus Malzahn. I had kind of a hinge decision in my life. I could have gone to Auburn as kind of an off-the-field analyst, senior support role for Coach Malzahn, or I could, which would have been a huge raise, and gone to a SEC school, or I could, again, bet on myself with Brian Harsin at Arkansas State. And I chose to stay at Arkansas State and kind of pursue my own avenue at that point, which was really risky because I didn't know Brian at all. And I remember one day we were doing a spring eval, and Coach Harsh asked me, he said, what are your goals for college football? And at that point, I really didn't have any. I was just trying, it was kind of like I was just out here floating around and going to see wherever it took me. And he really challenged me. He's like, because I knew in high school, I wanted to be a head high school coach. And I outlined it. I was going to be a seventh grade coach, junior high coach. I was going to try to be a high school coach, and then a coordinator, and then a head coach by the age of 40. He said, well, why don't you have those goals for college? And I said, well, I just don't know. So I did it. I went and wrote this note card and established what I wanted to do and kind of the vision I had for my life. And it kind of it put me on a trajectory to accomplish those things. It's kind of like, in Paul, you can either swing aimlessly at the air, or you can have a direct vision for what you want to accomplish. And I would say that moment kind of put me on that path and that vision. And every decision I started making was about accomplishing those goals. And I think that mindset probably is what's allowed me to be successful, because now I don't necessarily have the dream or I'm a head coach already. But it allows me, when I read a book like The 5 Types of Wealth, and I see something in there that helps me grow, okay, I need to apply this to my life, because it's going to help me become who I really want to become, which is a better husband and a better father, a better leader of men, a better leader for this university and organization. I want to continually grow and improve in those areas. And I think that mindset helped me.
Yeah. I love hearing that. So I gave a talk a couple weeks ago, and somebody asked me a question. And I said it's been continuously, one, showing up, but number two, betting on myself. Right, all the risks that I've taken as a business person, it's been betting on yourself and trusting, having faith that you're gonna make it. Right. So I love hearing you say all that kind of stuff. When you think about the foundation of your career, and again, it's being a better husband, a better father, a better leader, right? All those things. What's the biggest risk out there that you took, number one? But number two, the writing down of the goals, how important are those for you, and how often do you evaluate those?
Yeah. Okay. One, I'm going to say this too about consistently showing up. I don't know that there's anything really remarkable about me as a person. 5'10", balding, glasses, relatively dorky, no known talent. Physical talent, right? Very little athletic ability, but I show up every day. And if you tell me I got to be the first one in the office, I'm going to be the first one in the office. You say I got to be the last one in the office, I'm going to be the last one in the office. Like I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do to get it done, right? And I think that, consistently showing up, next thing you know, they're like, okay, well, this guy's really good at making sure that the coffee, literally Coach Malzahn's first job for me was, you have to beat me to the office and make sure that the coffee is ready when I start work. All right. Well, I consistently did that for multiple months. So then he let me graduate to go get me breakfast. And then it kind of went from there. And so I do think that just showing up is a huge thing, emotional consistency. Well, your question was
well, they're writing
about,
it down, right? I mean, you said you get this card.
Yeah,
The reason I say that because I write down stuff all the time and review it.
Yeah. So now I consistently review my goals in January. So when my season ends, January, in fact, if you pull up my top right-hand drawer, it's got my goals for this year of what I want to accomplish right there. So it's I wouldn't say consciously it's consciously on my mind that I have them there and I need to review them. And these are the things that are important to me, and making sure that, again, I have those hinge points in my life. Every major decision that I'm going to make for the future is this going to allow me to take my kids to school when I want to? And if it is, great, I can keep doing it. If it says, no, I can't do that, then it's probably not a decision I want to make moving forward. So, and I think those goals that I have, whether it's for this football team, for this season, or for my life, affects the decisions that I make on a day-to-day basis. And I think that probably goes back to this consistency question that you're talking about. Like, when you have parameters for what you're wanting to accomplish and you consistently think about those and review those things, then every other decision that you make throughout the day is going to either help you achieve that or not achieve that. When you become a disciplined person, when you become a person, you as the CEO of your organization, the CEO of my organization, every decision I make is going to have an impact on this group, positively or negatively. And that's as simple as this. I'm going to be real. When I'm out in the community at CC's Broiler, and I'm having a dinner, maybe it's just me and my wife, and I want to have a glass of wine, but I choose not to, not because I don't have freedom of choice, but because I don't know if there's going to be somebody in there that takes a picture of me having a glass of wine and posts that in a negative light that's going to negatively affect my organization. So I choose not to do it. That's everybody's own choice, but that helps me because I know what my choices are, what I want to accomplish here. I believe there are three things that ruin an organization. Number one is if your product can't compete. Number two is if there's negative public perception. And number three is if there's division from within. Well, I'm not going to do anything that has a negative public perception, because when negative public perception, when everybody's jarred up about the tariffs right now, when you're working in the White House, nobody wants to go to work because they don't want to hear about all the negative crap going on there. That's why the media is such a tough issue that you got to fight. You got to figure out a way to not have negative public perception or be strong enough to ignore the noise. So again, go back to answering your question. I think if you have a vision for what you're trying to accomplish, it affects the decisions that you make on a day-to-day basis to either help you achieve that or not achieve that.
I love it. I mean, we could talk for hours on this stuff. What advice would you give? I'm just going to make a number up. The 32-year-old, the 35-year-old Eli Drinkwitz, and picture the man or woman driving on the road right now. They're in the thick of it, right? They're building it. They're not the head coach or the CEO yet. They maybe don't even have the vision yet like you had. What advice would you give that person, but also what advice would you give back to Coach Drinkwitz at 32, 35 years old?
Wow. I don't even know how old I am right now. I don't even know. I really don't know where I was at. When I was 32 or 35, I think I was probably at NC State at that point. Honestly, I think the piece of advice that I would give was don't judge people too harshly. I think I was so driven and so motivated to achieve, and I felt like I had a lot of answers for people. When I look back, now that I'm sitting in this seat, looking back on my life, I would say, man, don't judge people so harshly. Let people grow. You don't have all the answers. You certainly had your fair share of mistakes, but yeah, probably being less critical of the people around me and the people that I interacted with, because now in the seat I'm sitting in, I see everything a little bit differently, and I kind of see some of the decisions that they had to make, or even decisions people who were my my peers or coworkers, the decisions they were having to make, the lens looks so much different in the different seats that you're in.
Yeah. Now the question that probably you get tired of getting asked about, but I got to give the people what they want, Coach, is the NIL and the transfer portal. Can you give us some perspective on that? How do you feel about it? Anything you want to share there? If you want to say next question, Brett.
No, absolutely. I don't. I got number one. I would just ask the fans, loyalty. Asking for blind loyalty out of these players is such a hard thing to do now, because again, there is so much going on that nobody else really knows about. And so I think there's got to be a lot of grace given to this whole situation because it's new to everybody. And, we love the game. We love the game, but man, think about why you love the game. I love coming to college athletic events because I love supporting the team. I love the nostalgia to it. I love being around the fans, and I love the people and the memories that I'm making. And you can do that with a lot of different people who are playing in those uniforms. So keep the main thing the main thing. Number two, these players deserve every penny that they're earning. And that's exactly right. They're earning it. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And for far too long, they didn't earn anything. And you'll say, well, they earned a scholarship. Absolutely, they did. And you know what? 20 years ago, that was probably enough. But when we, and I say when we decided that we were going to make this into a 12-team playoff, and I'm speaking just for football. Basketball just got done with the NCAA tournament, which is a $1 billion tournament, and you're going to tell me that those players on the 65 teams don't deserve $1 billion, a portion of that $1 billion? That's insanity. You got a job, right? They pay you to do the job. Okay. Well, if you take those players away, they don't make $1 billion. Mm-hmm. And those advertisers are not pouring in advertiser dollars if those guys aren't playing basketball at a high level. Same thing with football. We're going to go to a 12-team playoff. And as soon as they put that 12-team playoff up for bid for $1 billion, and they didn't think that these guys deserve some of that money, they're absolutely insane. So my point of this whole conversation is as fans, let's not judge these players because they're not wrong in this. They deserve the opportunity. Where I'm critical of this whole situation is who's in charge? Because where there's a lack of communication, negativity creeps in. And that's exactly what's happening within the NCAA. There is no structure. There is no organization. And so whether it's coaches being critical or fans being critical or players being critical, it's because we have no structure in place.
Yeah.
And it threatens to ruin what I consider to be one of the fabrics of the United States of America. Because I do think patriotic pride and pride in our country is started with pride in our communities. High school footballs, community football, community sports, which then breeds into college sports. There's a pride in representing the state of Missouri and the 6.5 million residents, because when you put on that University of Missouri uniform, or for me, when I run out of that tunnel and I wear that Block M, I know I'm representing the Boot Hill. I know I'm representing the cattle farmer. I know I'm representing the streets of St. Louis and in downtown Kansas City, in St. Joe, in Joplin, in Chillicothe. I know and I take pride in that, and I want to have pride in performance. And I think that's an important part of the fabric of the United States of America. And so what I caution is I hope that greed hasn't destroyed something that's so beautiful and so powerful.
Powerful way to say that, man. I appreciate you sharing that and being open and transparent. It's awesome. I got 4 years of eligibility, Coach, for football. I feel like I can come play there right now. I want to run through a brick wall because of you.
Well, one, they've limited walk-ons, and two, I don't have enough money because you'd have to come play for free.
I'll come for free. I'll be there for free.
Yeah.
Just let me just show up and practice, you know.
Let's do it.
What fears you've put in your mind, how many of them have ever blown up to the magnitude you put them in your mind to be?
Oh, probably none of them, honestly.
That's the
I
point.
think probably overthinking and fear of failure is probably one of those inhibitors that, and I think fear of future, right? Like, you overplay things too much in your mind. If you do this, then this could occur and this could
Yeah.
occur. Um, I was reading a book by Ryan Holiday called Courage, right? And it talks, it's actually, I'm going to screw up the quote just because I don't have it right in front of it, but it talks about you blow it up in your mind. There's more to fear until you actually count them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's the story of, it's actually a story of golly, his name's escaped me, former president, I think 1850, right after Lincoln. But anyway, he's going across the plains, and it's him and one other person, and they're taking not a group of people, but a group of supplies, and they're starting to hear all these coyotes, and they're getting scared, and they're worried about it, and then they decide we're just going to go charge them, and then they think they're fixing to be surrounded by wolves and all this stuff and die, and then they go charge them, and they realize it was only two coyotes, right? And so the reality of it is your fears multiply until you face them. And once you face them, they're far less, right? When you can actually count what is out there. So I think you got to be willing to face your fears. Yeah.
It's awesome.
It's gonna
Last
bother me.
couple
I can't
questions
think of his
here.
name.
Future greater than your past. You can see in the bottom of the microphone here, right? Is a future greater than your past. That's my mission, our firm's mission, helping you achieve a future greater than your past. What does that mean to you?
Well, I think your past help propels you for your future if you're willing to learn and grow from it, and so you always got to believe that if you're constantly growing and developing and you're constantly sowing into yourself, that you're going to reap a reward. And so I think you have to have one of those growth mindsets. You have to be able to willing to sow into yourself, and you got to have a constant belief that tomorrow is going to be better than today if you're pushing yourself, right? If you're willing to do the work. And so I think that's a great saying and a great way to live. And I believe that you can learn from your past, and you can actually, think about those great days, but you always want to be improving. You always want to be growing.
Love it. Last thing here is I know you got to get rolling here, but Jason Dow, the kid from Althoff Catholic High School, coming to play for you next year. Kid's been in my house numerous times. He's a stud. Really? What a big heart this kid. He goes to my kids go to high school there. So my son Max, who's at Mizzou, got his picture taken with you on Pajama Day of all things when you were at high school.
I know exactly who we're talking about. That is phenomenal.
Yeah, that was cool. So they loved having you there. And, man, but you got a great kid, man, and we can't wait to see him as season ticket holders next year. We'll be there to watch. And Jason Dow's a great one. I'll let you go, but the last thing, what do you got to say to Mizzou Nation right now?
Wow, I mean, shoot, that caught me off guard right there. We've been talking about all these other things. Man, we got an opportunity to do something that's never been done before, right? We've got an opportunity to really challenge ourselves as a team, and as a program, and as a university. And don't sit on the sideline. Get all in. We've got 13 straight sellouts, but unless everybody continues to take action, it'll end right there. We got to have 14, and then 15, and then 16. And this football team is incredibly talented. Our staff is working hard. There's been a lot of investment in the future, but don't sit on the sideline. Keep pouring into it. Keep believing. And we're this close to doing something that we've all only ever dreamed of doing. But it takes everybody. It's not just one person. It's not just up to the players. It's not just up to me. It's up to all of us to be a part of it and share in it and enjoy in it. And I look forward to seeing them when we play UCA.
I love it. Coach, hang with me for a second. The screen will go dark when I hit end here. But, man, thank you so much for being on the Circuit of Success. It's awesome. Tons of takeaways from this. And MIZ.
ZOU.